Welcome, Olivers. Thank you so much for those of you who attended Grandparents' Day yesterday. We had an amazing time. We're still recovering from how much good a time we had, I think, some of us. But it was a pleasure for us to host this amazing, event for you. I think we had more than 300 people. We're still trying to clarify the numbers. But we are back today. That's what Olive is. I can't believe it. We're back today. I was thinking we should give the day off, but you know what? This is how we go. You just keep swimming. So today we are so happy to have Dr. Hafifa Siddiq return. She did a session on stress management for our in-person Anaheim program. And now she is doing a session about social media and mental health. I think everyone, all ages, young to old, need this talk. So thank you so much for bringing this to our team. A little introduction for Dr. Siddiq. She is actually a nurse scientist and an RN and community engaged health services researcher. She's an assistant professor at the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science at the School of Nursing. Dr. Siddiq obtained her PhD in nursing at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, and completed a postdoctoral fellowship in health policy research at the UCLA National Clinician Scholars Program. Her research encompasses social determinants of health, forced displacement, mental health, and psychosocial well-being among immigrants and refugees. Her current projects example psychosocial factors, post-migration stressors, and mental health services utilization of older adults from Afghanistan and the Middle East. Her community involvement spans over 2 decades of local volunteer work at federally qualified health centers in South Los Angeles to working with nonprofit organizations serving asylum seekers at the US-Mexico border. She serves health education on mental health in community settings and on secondary traumatic stress for refugee service providers. Dr. Siddiq is passionate about impactful community-based research, mentorship, and training future clinicians and reimagining how mental health care is integrated within health systems and communities. So that's a very inspiring bio, and we're so happy to have her with us today. Dr. Hafifa, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Zainab. I really appreciate the kind welcome and the long introduction. I'm going to change that for you for next time. But essentially, I love to come out to the community to talk about my research because the work that I do is more meaningful when I'm able to make it relevant to the population and to the community, right? So thank you for inviting me again, Ms. Zainab, for to talk about a part of my work in mental health. And I'm excited. So thank you. Can I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Able to. Oh no.
I can make you a co-host.
Okay. I am using a new computer. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. Okay, gonna troubleshoot because my new computer doesn't like.
If you would like, you could send me your PowerPoint and I can share it for you.
Yes, beautiful. Okay. I was gonna try this actually. I'm gonna just take a minute. I'm gonna mute myself.
Yeah. Sure. All right, while we're waiting for Dr. Hafifa, some of you have joined. Thank you and welcome. Anything you want to share from yesterday's event? The ones who didn't get to speak up. I see M. Khan. Is that? It's hard for me to say. Vista's iPhone. Oh my goodness.
This is Ali Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, Sam Uncle. Welcome. Thank you for coming today. So nice to see everyone with their family.
Yes, and yesterday was an amazing day with exception of humidity and heat. And,
Yes.
I never realized the importance of this day. I have been hearing all years. The first
Mm.
time I attended this event,
Mhm.
it was excellent.
Oh, I'm so happy you came. I'm so happy you came.
I
Let's see.
appreciate you spend so much of your time
Of course.
with the volunteers, and may Allah bless you for all this.
Oh, thank you. No, it was a team effort. I want to commend all the core team members who were a huge part of this event. It's hard to mention names and not forget some names. I'm trying my best, but I have to say, Shamim Auntie is one of our leads for this event. She's been helping lead this for 5 years now, and she did it with such with so much ihsan, as they say, excellence. And the green part was the best, right? No plastic. We created very little trash yesterday, so I'm happy. Okay, it looks like Dr. Hafifa is set. Let's go ahead and mute ourselves so that we can get advantage of her sound, and I'm going to put the spotlight back on you. All right, Dr. Hafifa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I
think you're on two computers, so maybe mute one of them, depending, so that your voice doesn't echo. Okay, now speak. Let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Let's see. Are you still feeling echo? Okay. Okay, so then maybe lower your volume on one of them, I'm guessing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it works? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Oh, this is all part of the technology talk that we're about to have and discussion around social media, mental health, and promoting authentic connections. So I'll get into just the purpose of my talk here today, but really briefly, just want to give some background about myself in addition to all that Ms. Zainab shared with you all already. I was born in the Philippines. My mom is Filipino. My dad is from Afghanistan. He fled the country in the 80s during the Soviet War, managed to, arrive in the US. We all arrived after him, but I mainly grew up in California. So I grew up in East Bay Area, moved to San Diego, lived in LA for 10 years, and now I'm in Orange County. So I consider myself, California grown. But that's just a little bit about myself and kind of to speak to why I'm interested in promoting mental health, specifically among immigrants in the U.S. As we grow older and age in the U.S., this is a very important topic to me, and I see it in the community that I grew up in. So this is why I do the work I do. So for today, in the next maybe 30 minutes or so, we're going to have a discussion around the issue of loneliness and loneliness as a health risk, actually, and the role of social media and its association with mental health. Okay. I know that many of you you don't have your videos up, but you can unmute yourself and you could say yes if you use social media. Can you all do that for me? Who uses social media here? Yes, if you do.
Yes.
I hear. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I heard some of you. Great. So I'm going to ask you to do that maybe throughout the talk so that you can, engage with me. I prefer in-person talks, but I appreciate you all interacting so that I can get a sense of where everyone is at. So in addition to that, then I'm going to talk about the importance of addressing this issue, which is really loneliness and social isolation. Okay. And I'm hoping that, even if you don't use social media, that you come away from, this discussion with learning something new about just the issue, about health, about how we can promote our mental health and promote healthier social connections. I love the work that Olive provides, the services that Olive provides for the community. And hopefully, the organization can also see that this work is this work is very important, and it is grounded in research and science. Okay. So I keep forgetting it's on the other computer. To begin with, very recently, and has been a culmination of decades of research now, that the US Surgeon General actually made a statement very recently about this culmination of research that says how loneliness increases the risk for premature death, comparable to how smoking every day will decrease your health. Okay, I just want everyone to let that sink in. It's as detrimental to health as it is smoking. Essentially. Like that to me is astounding, considering we don't really think about our social connections as a part of our physical or sometimes mental health. Okay, and I wanted to just begin by highlighting that for us all. So I want to bring in some of my research in here as well. So in a recent study, we just got this accepted for publication in the Journal of Social Psychiatry and Epidemiological Sciences. So this will be released very, very soon. But I wanted to share with you what we found when we looked at the California Health Interview Survey. Okay, so about 1 in 4 adults in California over the age of 65 experience moderate to severe levels of loneliness. So if you think about the health impact that has on us and how prevalent it is for this age group, that's very, very concerning. Okay, so that's maybe, for 17 people in this room, as we grow older and age, this becomes a very significant issue for us all. Some of the physical consequences of loneliness can be very devastating. So in addition to, like early death, right? We are increasing our risk for heart disease, stroke, developing dementia for older adults. So this is all from different studies that the US Surgeon General highlights on their website. And you can easily find that information, and I have a link here. If you want my slides, I can share it. You can look at that as well. So we have a double slide, but it is consistently linked with poor mental health. When I look at depression, anxiety, social ideation, suicidal ideation, and specifically, I look at psychological distress. So psychological distress is just a measure of depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms, right? And these are just different types of mental health conditions that loneliness is consistently linked with. So what I'm interested in all of this is that I focus on immigrant older adults. So I highlight in my work all of the different migration related experiences, right, that people have when they arrive in the US. Things like culture shock. I use acculturation stress as a term for that. But people can experience discrimination, right? They have diminished social support or networks coming from, countries that you grew up in and then coming to
Hi, good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
Hi.
And other migration related experiences can be, family conflict, maybe intergenerational conflict, that can really worsen social isolation for older adult immigrants in the US. So one thing that piqued my interest very recently was that this data set is, they gather information from thousands of people across California. And recently they included a measure for social media use. And I thought, yes, because this is one way to promote social connections, right? For a lot of people, that's what social media does, is really connect us with other people, in the virtual world versus, in person. And that can be very helpful, and it promotes connections to people that we don't have physical connection with, right? And ultimately that may alleviate loneliness. So in theory, this is what social media is supposed to be for us, okay? And I just wanted to share with you how much social media has grown just in the past 3 years in terms of millions of people. So like it says 2,000, but it's just like millions. So it like doubled, almost, no, not doubled, but like it increased significantly in the past 3 years. And do you all know why might that be? So we have Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. During COVID, the COVID pandemic really forced a lot of people to find ways to connect with each other under, the social isolation period, okay? How many of you use Facebook? Say yes. If you want to say yes, unmute. I can see you waving.
Yes.
Yes. Facebook. What about Instagram? Maybe not so much, right? But Facebook is a good one, yeah. And then we have like the other ones that the younger generation loved, Snapchat, and and then the one that I use is Twitter, and that's just for work. But I digress. Okay, so when we looked at the California Health Interview Survey, we found something very interesting, and it's not surprising, okay, that most older adults over the age of 65 don't use social media, or use it less than a few times within a month, or within a day, excuse me. And we have a small, tiny percentage of those who use it almost all the time, so 2.1%. And then we have like the third of the group population of older adults who use it at least a few times or many times, okay? So we can kind of see that it's actually, it's not that commonly used in this age group, but it is growing. So that's the key thing here. So we have to be aware of all of the different things that come with social media, okay? So if we start to use it or we use it, I want us all to consider, what are the positive and negative aspects of using social media, right? So positively, we can connect with others, especially our loved ones, right? Communication with our loved ones. Who uses WhatsApp? I consider WhatsApp social media, right?
I was going to ask, would WhatsApp be considered?
Oh, absolutely. That's
okay.
A social platform to connect with others. So broadly, that's social media. And you can get information through social media. You have access to global news, what's going on in our home countries, some health tips that are being shared, educational content. And then we also can build communities over social media. We have Facebook groups, right? We find different groups who have similar interests as us, and we connect with them through these different groups. And I see that all as positive, okay? But there are negative aspects to using social media. So I just want to highlight them here. And one of them is that when we use Facebook, right, a lot of times people highlight all of the good things that happen in people's lives, which is wonderful. But constant exposure to this is actually can be detrimental to our own mental health when we look at ourselves and say we don't have that, or something's not going right here, and it becomes like a normal thing to see happy and positive things in other people's lives that we compare ourselves to, and then we think that we have less. That's that comparison syndrome. That is a negative aspect to using social media. Okay. There's also this other aspect to this, and this might be more relevant for younger age groups, especially for our adolescents and young adults. There's a rise in online harassment that, you know, we could talk about this all day, but I won't go into the details, but it is a huge concern. You know, people get into fights on social media, right? They're like arguing, and maybe it's easier to argue on social media because we're not physically together, right? So it's easier to say things that you wouldn't normally say in person. So that's one other aspect of social media use that can be negative, you know, overall. And then the last thing and there's a lot more to this, I'm sure, but one thing that I want to highlight too is information overload. Okay. When you go, I call this going into a rabbit hole of like all the things that are going wrong in the world. So it, you know, in opposite of everything that's going right with people and your friends, then, you know, you get stressed out from, you know, hearing constantly about, you know, just things that are wrong overall, that are happening, you know, news, right? Stress from too much information can also be overwhelming. Okay. So those are the positive and negative aspects of social media. I just want to take a couple minutes here, and maybe one or a few of you want to share, how have you personally felt mental strain, you know, using social media, and how? If anybody wants to share, you can even share it, you know, just in general, how you see it. It doesn't have to be personal, but how have you felt mental strain based on using social media? And you can unmute and just start.
Yes, hi. For me, I find it very disturbing. And like, you know, even though like we know we spend a lot of time on the social media, but with our families, we're not there. So it's taking us from even ourselves, you know, because at the end of the day, you find yourself that it's not yourself, like, you know, and comparing and like, you know, and I see like, you know, our feelings, they go very, very quickly, like within less than 1 second, you can feel too many feelings, sad and happy and guilty and like, you know, oh, why it's not me, why it's me. So like in less than 1 second, too many feelings. So I think it's like, you know, it's disturbing, and at the same time, it's changing our like way of thinking. This is for me, at least.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I resonate with everything that you mentioned. One thing that, you know, popped out for me was when we also see, you know, news, especially from our home countries, right? That's stressful because, you know, we're not there, or maybe we want to be there and we can't do anything about what's going on or what's happening, and we feel helpless. Sometimes those feelings also, you know, come up for us. And, you know, we can also be stressed from hearing, you know, different sides to different things, right? I think that's also very stressful. One thing that comes to mind is like, you know, whether or not one should get COVID vaccine or not, right? It's just very stressful to think about all the information that goes into that. Sometimes we just want to say, you know what? give me the highest ranked official doctor in the US to tell me what should I do or not, because they're the ones who look at all the data. Just tell me, and then sometimes that works for us. But, all of the different opinions and different things come up, and it becomes very, very stressful. Is there anyone else that wants to share any other ways that social media affects their mental health? But thank you for sharing that. And this resonates with, can happen to everyone who use social media. So, one thing that we did find in our recent study is that, among the older adults who use social media, okay, so we asked, the question was like, how often do you use social media, and then how that is associated with poor mental health. We found that those who used it almost always, so almost all the time, about a third had poorer mental health compared to those who didn't use it a lot and had lower rates of poorer mental health, okay? The thing is about this finding is that it doesn't mean that social media causes poor mental health, okay? It doesn't mean that. It just means that it's associated. So it might be that people who have worse mental health use social media to try and, alleviate their concerns or connect with other people. So it could be like opposite effect here. But this is just a general association, and it was significant at the one level that we looked at it. It is important to note that when I started to add other factors to this analysis, so meaning like if I considered somebody's socio-demographic, their level of income, their race, ethnicity, the other things that might also influence mental health, we saw that social media did not remain a big factor in their mental health. Okay, so what that means is that it's just there's other factors that are stronger independent factors to poor mental health, right? And social media is not one of them. In fact, when we consider other factors, the one factor that remains significant to poor mental health, guess what it was when we accounted for all the different socio-demographics and other aspects of a person, like race, ethnicity, income level? What was the one factor that influenced what was a significant factor to poor mental health? It wasn't social media, it was something else.
Loneliness?
Yes, thank you. Loneliness. Yep. That just validates, what has already been, found. It's just that much of a powerful, very powerful factor for health, okay? And I don't want to demonize social media. That's what I'm trying to say, is that it doesn't cause mental health, but it is associated, right? So there might be this relationship between social media use, constant social media use, and poor mental health. So coming away from all of that information that I just, shared with you all, the key thing here is that we just need to use social media in an effective way, in a way that, is healthy, in a way that does benefit us and does not, worsen our mental health. Okay, so that's my takeaway, is that I think we just need to look at this, and look at this issue and try to see how we can use social media in a healthy way, okay? But I just added this slide so that you could see all the different studies that say social media has actually has positive effects on mental health. And there's several studies here. I can send links to all of them, but really I'm summarizing it to say that there really is no clear, there's no clear consensus around the number of studies, right, that say social media is either bad or good for mental health. Because it's more complicated than that, right? People use social media for very different reasons, okay? And it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It means that we can use it for healthy, in a healthy way, to promote our self-rated health. It can improve our overall well-being and reduce our depressive symptoms. We can use social media for all of that. We just need to figure out how, okay? So this is my my overall recommendations here. I don't know if it's showing up for the next slide. Do you see my slide on tips for healthy social media use?
Not yet.
Not yet, because it kicked me off. Okay. I mean, that's the one thing also, is that people need to have access to be able to use it appropriately, right? Can you see all this? Okay, yeah, you can see it. So, did somebody have a comment? Yeah, so I just highlighted some key tips for healthy social media use, right? Where we make sure that we don't go overboard, we set boundaries, right? For myself, I even analyze how much time I spend during the day on social media, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So considering WhatsApp, connecting with family, and I use Twitter. I don't have Facebook though, and I don't have Instagram. But you know, we should have boundaries around how much we use it, because it can be very addicting as well, and that's a whole other topic there. But we also, if we find ourselves using it a lot where it's affecting our mental health, and we start to recognize that, we need to be able to set boundaries and breaks and time limits for it. And one of the things is about being selective of who you connect with and follow, right? We don't need to follow all the news and updates and you know, and engage with it, right? We can be selective. We can choose to not listen. And we can use it to engage with positive communities, things that will help us you know, be more you know, engaged and connected, and have those authentic connections, right, for healthy social media use.
Sorry to interrupt us, Dr. Siddiq. There is a question. Amal has her hand raised, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for pointing that out.
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
Okay. Do you have any studies about which the best social media a platform for, like, let's say seniors? Like, is it like, you know, not to watch too many movies or too many pictures, or just like, you know, reading? As I know, Twitter is more reading than, let's say, Instagram or Facebook. Maybe it's more reading than, you know what I mean? Like, what affects our mental health as like too many pictures or too many videos or talks? I don't know if this is like that question, but I feel it's also important to select, like, you know, the concept of what we are, like, you know, spending our time with.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for asking that very, very important question. I can give you a short answer and then the long one. So short answer is, I have not seen specific studies that look at which platforms improve mental health for older adults, okay? Because we're still looking at studies that say whether or not this is even healthy or good for us, right? I haven't seen to that level of detail. However, when we think about what we need for our own mental health, as well as cognitive health, because I hear you asking about, like, Should we look at pictures or read or do these types of things? Yes, absolutely. I think that a mix of everything is all in moderation is always good. Okay. In terms of like looking for social media platforms that share bite-sized pieces of information. You can get that on Facebook. You can get sometimes when you read a lot through Twitter, you know, that reading actually improves cognitive function. So you're constantly like engaging your mind and your reading, right? But I cannot say studies specifically on like the number and the, you know, and the type of platform or anything like that. So
Dr. Siddiq, I would like to add a comment. I think there is a way on your cell phones you can get a report. I know I get one. I don't know how that happened, but you get a report of how many hours you've spent screen time
every week.
It's a good way to know if there is an excess happening at any point.
True.
Yeah, so I think
Every week.
I think an important you know, just segue off of what Ms. Zainab said to answer that question also is we need to be mindful. Like, you know, first step is just recognizing how is this, you know, how are my feelings changing when I'm using this social media and how much am I using it, right? So we need to be able to gauge that and assess it. So use that tool to see how much you're using and then also gauge your own emotions and your feelings as you utilize the social media, because that will be the key to how you want to change, you know, your habits or your behavior so that it can ultimately be improving your mental health. That's the goal. We don't want it to worsen our mental health. We don't want to be too stressed out. Okay. It's normal to be stressed. And I talked about that in the last session. And that's like a whole different topic. But, you know, we want to balance it out. Okay. So I highlight here on this slide some of the ways to balance it out can also include connecting with loved ones offline. That is so, so important. It's not just all social media, you know. I'm a big proponent for balance, moderation, okay? So let's balance off with connecting with people in person, okay? Not just online, but also find ways to connect with loved ones, with your family, or even shared activities with people, you know, people that you know, you maybe share the language with, or you have similar background, maybe similar interests, maybe you have reunions with other people, maybe you have an opportunity to teach to a group. That can be a way to connect with people, or learning in a group setting like this one, right? And then the last thing I wanted to add was, you know, how having that balance is also thinking about reconnecting with nature. And there's a whole, like, you know, field of research in that area where even just exposing yourself in a forest or in a park, right, has very positive effects on our mental health. Okay. So these are all different ideas. So I would love to hear from you. You know, what have you found helpful to have that positive experience on social media? Does anybody want to share things that they've found that has been helpful for them using WhatsApp, Facebook, other social media networks? Is anyone in a special, like, does anyone have a special group that they connect with on social media?
Olive, obviously.
Yes, yeah, that's obviously. That is a good thing for your mental health. Right?
One of the best.
Absolutely.
Actually, for me, I use, like, you know, many platforms to learn new skills.
Yes, absolutely.
Because this is, like, you know, and it's very, very full of new skills. So like every other few months, I start new skill to teach myself. So this is, I think, the best thing I can do, like, you know, using the social media or the other platforms. I don't know.
Yeah, that is wonderful because you want to keep your mind engaged, right?
Mhm.
That's so important. And it's very key to promoting our mental health.
But this is a stressful situation too. Too many emails are coming from, too many messages are coming from all the community services.
I'll leave that to Ms. Zainab to address.
Uncle, there's always good stressors and a bad stressor.
Bad
So I
stressors.
think I think
True.
Dr. Siddiq will attest to that, because a little stress is not a bad thing. But you know, Uncle, to manage that, we had to end up, not that we like segregating our groups, but we made a men's WhatsApp chat called OMG. Oh my God, no, it means all of men's group, because they wanted very limited interaction. You know, women, we noticed, had more, like, you know, they like to have the before and the after, the reactions, the questions. So that's why we did that. So what you're getting is actually a very modified amount, believe it or not.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's true.
Can I share something?
Of course, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rafia. It was like really wonderful seeing you again. And like you said, you know, the boundaries and the time limits is the most important thing, because every thing has advantages and disadvantages,
Just
millions of those. You know, I mean, with a click of button, you can reach millions. And this e-commerce and all that are very helpful, but, you know, sticking continuously to the screen or any screen is just like really, really very dangerous for health, right? And one thing I have realized that as I was growing up, we were, you know, our grandparents and parents told us the stories. You know, when they tell the stories, you visualize yourself, and then you have your brain is active, and otherwise, if you watch TV, somebody else is doing the emotions for you. You are not the princess. You are not the prince. And that way it's like passive activity. It's not active activity for the brain. So it is better to read them stories. Now my children, like, we have started reading books together, and it is better to read outside, because indoor they have so many distractions, and then they can't focus on like more than 5 minutes, and they don't want to read the story, they don't want to listen to the story. But if you are outside in a calm and peaceful environment, away from all the gadgets in the house, they focus better, they listen more.
Yeah,
true.
So
yeah,
that's
True.
what I have realized. I mean, they have become so emotionless, like they're watching TV constantly. I don't know what's going through their brain. It's,
True.
they are still young, so it's easier to mold them. But I don't want to reach that phase when they say grown-ups are stupid and kids are intelligent, because they know so much, right? So now they still believe that, oh, grandparents and parents are smarter than us. They know so much more because they know, they have the experience, and then they talk about their grandparents, and their grandparents were wonderful and all that, right? So this, I think this is a good time to spend with them and teach them how the social media is good and bad both.
yes, yes. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing all of that. You know, I took away so much. I want to particularly highlight your emphasis on the storytelling piece, because this is how wisdom is shared through generations. Okay. And we lose that when we, you know, we lose somewhat of it when we don't have our original like social network around us, our family. And it's hard to do that in the US. I think that we have a lot of opportunity through these different programs to kind of bring that back, you know? And yeah, it's a lost, what is it? Skill or underappreciated way of connecting with people is really this, you know, storytelling between elders and younger generations. Yeah, it's beautiful and I love it. So I think that's one, you know, one type of program that we could, you know, promote in the community too. So thank you for sharing that.
I would like,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
As far as storytelling is concerned, we had a program during the pandemic where we connected the younger teens with our Olivers, and we did Oliver story time to again fight social anxiety.
Yeah.
And we need to bring that program back. It's just
Yes.
that, you know, it's definitely, there's so much value because it helps build resilience. The second thing about nature walks, our nature walks program is back. It's once a month at the last Sunday of the month, most of the time. And, you know, again, we are led by children who are telling us about different plants and animals. And again, a great way for us to engage different generations and as well enjoy the outdoors. So 2 things that you have an opportunity, you just have to join and go and receive a message about it. Sorry.
You invite me, Miss Zainab. I would love to join those nature walks.
Yes, please come on the 24th. Even yesterday at Grandparents' Day, we had nature walks happening on the side. So,
that's so awesome.
Absolutely, we see the value in there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think we have another hand raised. Yeah.
It's me again. Is it me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you please, thank you very much for this informative and very important information. Can you provide us with tips, like 2 kinds of tips? Or how can we know that we are addicted to social media, and what we can do just, because for me, I feel myself when I feel lonely or something, like, especially like at night, sitting doing nothing, I will go and grab my phone and start spending up to 2 hours before I sleep.
Ooh.
So I feel this is it's getting me.
Yeah.
So
With a timer.
yeah, it does. So what do you think, how can I know if I'm addicted? Because I heard once that if you wake up in the morning, before even checking on your partner, just you're gonna grab your phone. So this means that you are addicted. So I'm not sure if it's and how can we control this addiction? At least for me, I consider myself this kind of very connected for the phones. I don't know.
Okay, so thank you for raising that. I really appreciate this question because it's one that concerns a lot of people, right? It's not just you, it's a lot of people who, have social media, and they, they feel the need to, get the information, right? Or missing out, right? They don't want to miss out on something important that might be important. Happening in that moment, right? Or from the day. So I have few comments for related to that issue, which is one, how do we know if it's really bad or when it's really bad? Okay. So I think that's really important to be very self-aware of how you're using social media, how much, right? We talked about looking at the level and percentage or number of minutes or hours that you spend. Maybe if you don't have that information, you can start to, keep track of it, right? The thing is about social media is it's on our phone or or on a piece of technology that's very easy to just get on it and just check, what's the harm, right? Just check it and then really quickly, and then you just get off. But then you end up adding up all those different minutes throughout the day. It adds up, right? And then another aspect of using it so much is that we don't recognize that at the end of the day is actually, I think personally, the worst time to use it. Okay, so hear me out. It's because it affects our sleep. That's the reason why I want to highlight it, is because sleep becomes such a key factor for health, especially for as we age, as we grow older, we need more sleep. Even for me, I recognize that I need more hours or more time sleeping than I did a few years ago. Right. And it's even more important as we grow, as we age. And it becomes even harder for us to sleep as we age, right? It's harder to stay asleep. We wake up in the middle of the night. And one of the things that affects our sleep is being on the screen at night, especially with the blue light. And then also you're raising your stress hormones when you're looking at social media right before bed. Because right before bed, that 1 to 2 hours before we sleep is actually a very prime opportunity to relax our body and be in a calm state so that we have a very restful sleep that really benefits our health in the long term for the next day. We feel more restful, or we feel more energetic when we have a restful sleep. So that's the reason why I want to highlight that, if anything, avoid the using it maybe up to an hour before bed, and find an alternative activity that you love, right? That's relaxing. It could be anything. Reading a book is my personal go-to, but it could be just, sitting with a partner, or playing a quiet game, maybe puzzle or Scrabble. There's so many ideas for that 1 hour before bed to really like get your body to be in a calmer state and lower your heart rate so that you can really benefit your sleep. Okay. The reason why I don't like the word addict, I don't want to call people addicts. That's I'm a mental health nurse. I work in acute psychiatry. I actually work with real addicts with substance use disorders. So I don't like the word addict, but I know that people struggle with using social media a lot, up to like 6 to 10 hours a day, right? There are people who use social media to that level, to that extent. And I can tell you from the research, I know it's not a lot in older adults, but for adolescents and young adults, the more more number of hours, the worse your mental health is. It's because we're exposing ourselves to all of the different things that we talked about earlier. But I want to say that to recognize when to start being concerned is that if it starts to affect other aspects of your life, which is maybe you start to see people less, something that is basically, is it affecting your sleep? Is it affecting, healthy relationships that you would rather have with your partner or other family or friends? You'd rather be doing something else, not, sitting and scrolling through, scrolling and seeing all the, things that are going on wrong with the world, right? If you'd rather be doing something else, that should tell you like, okay, I need to be doing something else. And then physically removing apps off the phone is one thing. Okay, so then it becomes harder for you to access it. There's different things that you can do to really keep those boundaries, and time limits and breaks. But fill in the gap with something else. Fill it in with, going for a walk in the park, doing reading, doing this, other activities. You have to replace it with something else, or else you're just gonna sit there and you're gonna say, I have nothing to do, so might as well pick up the phone or the computer, log on. I'm sorry that was very, very long response, but I hope that some of it answered your question, and I hope that was relevant, to you all, and as a reminder for myself as well. So
somebody added a comment, if you would like.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They said they listened to audio if they couldn't.
Yeah. I listen to nice lectures at night when I cannot sleep. Yes, I do too. It's not, I don't listen to lectures, but I do love podcasts. I listen to hypnosis, like meditation, meditative audio for 10 minutes to get me to like be mindful of, where I am and how to disconnect from work. I love that, listening to lectures, podcasts, things at night. So you're not really like engaging with stressful events. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. We are 11 o'clock on the dot. You can contact me if you have any questions or want access to any of the materials and resources. And also please reach out if you feel like you need help. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Olive Community Services is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Southern California that provides culturally appropriate services to seniors, their family, and the community. Through its physical and virtual interactive programs, Olive engages participants in a variety of ways that promotes health and well-being. To learn more about Olive Community Services, to get involved, or to make a donation, please visit www.olivecs.org or email info@olivecs.org. Be a change maker, and together, let's live, learn, and thrive.